The first foundational and final word of my faith can be found in the opening chapter of this week's Torah reading. And God created the first human being in the divine image. In the image of God, God created humanity. It's the North Star of our community, of who we are. It's the core of our being. Every human being, male, female, old, young, straight, gay, rich, poor, no matter your race, your ethnicity, your religion, or nationality, each of us and all of us created with infinite dignity, with equal dignity. Every individual, a unique contribution to creation, the spark of the divine embedded in each of our souls. Whosoever saves a single life, teaches the Talmud, as if they've saved the entire world. Whosoever destroys a single soul, as if they've destroyed an entire universe. 1 week ago, this Shabbat, over 1,300 irreplaceable human souls were destroyed, murdered at the villainous hands of Hamas. Families massacred, children, babies slaughtered, acts of such depravity and barbarism beyond our comprehension, rape, people bound up and burnt alive, over 3,000 Israelis wounded, over 150 men, women, children, seniors, babies taken hostage, their condition and fate unknown, now in the hands of their vicious captors. A cottage industry has begun to measure the tragedy. Was it a pogrom? Was it genocide? Was it the worst day of Jewish history since the Yom Kippur War, since the Holocaust? I understand the impulse, the need to give the horror a name, to give it context, to measure it somehow, to put it into words, that which is beyond words. But here in this room, we need look no further than our Torah reading to know the root of our grief and our outrage. 1,300 irreplaceable souls, created image of God, butchered in cold blood. We mourn each precious soul, and we pray for the comfort of the families. At one of the rallies the other day, a colleague said to me that they wished they could wake up from this nightmare. I turned to her and replied, "I take that problem. I only wish I could sleep." The images to which we have all been subjected, from which we must protect our children, are important if only because they reveal the truth about Hamas. This is not a land dispute. This is not about competing aspirations for national sovereignty, the he said, she said of a conflict of dueling narratives of historians. This is the face of evil revealed. This is a fascist, violent, and genocidal Islamist ideology that would kill Jews for being Jews, murder for sport, that neither represents the Muslim faith, the national interests of the Palestinian people, or any vision of future coexistence. Our pain is suffocating. Our eyes are filled with tears, but in those tears we see clarity. We see our enemy for who they really are. We reject any moral equivalency. We support Israel in their efforts to rescue those lives that hang in the balance, and we know that there can and must never be a return to the status quo ante. This is not the worst day since the Shoah, because today we have the IDF. We have Rabbi Zuckerman's son in a tank unit defending Israel in the north. We have my nephew in a tank in the south. We have the IDF to tell the world and to show the world that Dam Yehudi lo hefker, the blood of Jews, is not free for the taking. I mourn the loss of every life, of my people, and yes, of my enemies. In the days ahead, we will need to both steel our resolve and grieve over every life lost. But I will not seek forgiveness for my people's right to self-defense, for my people's right to rescue the abducted. That is, at its core, what Zionism is, the right of a people for self-determination, self-defense, lihiyot am chofshi be'artzenu, to be a free people in our land. Good people can disagree on policy within Israel, throughout the Middle East, and across the globe. Deny my right to exist, I have nothing to say to you. The IDF speaks for me and for all of Israel. May every soldier be strengthened and blessed in their defense of Israel and come home together with the captives soon. And today the blood of my brother cries out to me from the ground. We are traumatized by this moment, but we are not paralyzed. In reading this week's murder by Cain of his brother Abel, the rabbis of old noted that the entire Torah, the entire system of Jewish ethics, is a response to Cain's impertinent question, am I my brother's keeper? We in this room are our brothers and sisters' keeper. We will not stand idly by the blood of our brothers and sisters. We will not allow ourselves to be reduced to the level of our enemies. This community responds not with days of rage, but with days of chesed, kindness. Our days, our hours, our minutes filled with acts of compassion. American Jewish institutions must ask themselves what they can do to help those in need. Collections, donations, awareness, engagement with Israelis so they know they are not alone. Every individual must ask what they can do in this dark hour. In an earlier chapter of Israel's history, in 1967, when Israel's fate hung in the balance, the then Chief Rabbi of the United Kingdom, Rabbi Emanuel Jakubowicz, called for a massive rally at the Royal Albert Hall in London. Thousands turned out, my father, a newly minted doctor, included. He was present that day. And the Chief Rabbi demanded that everyone do something because the judgment of history was upon them. He called on everyone present to do one of three things. First, if you can go to Israel, go. Help the state of Israel defend itself. And my father was one of the many volunteers who spent that summer in the hospitals tending to the wounded. Second, if you can't go, then look after the interests of the person who is going. Kol Yisrael arevim zeh bazeh. We are all responsible for one another. Make sure the business or job or place in school is there when that person returns. And third, if you're not positioned to do either one or two, then give money to support those who are positioned to save Jewish lives hanging in the balance. Every person, obligated, commanded by God, by history, by the bonds of Jewish peoplehood, to do whatever they can do to stem the suffering in the darkest of hours. For the first time in my rabbinate, I sent an email to you over Shabbat last week, a break with Jewish law in obedience to a higher law of mobilizing our community to action. Pikuach nefesh, saving a life, taking precedence over all else. For my deeds last Shabbat, for what I am about to ask you to do this Shabbat, I have a clear conscience. And if God calls me to account, rest assured I will have some pointed questions regarding the souls of innocents in the week gone by. Every act of tzedakah, of charitable giving, is good. This past week I have seen and heard of giving that speaks to our highest values, some publicly in hope of inspiring others, many privately, because giving at all times, but especially this time, should never be about us and our egos. Some of you are engaged in political work and public relations and countering media bias. There's a short game, there's a long game. Many of you have already given, and I thank you. It should not be lost on any of us that the Hebrew word for blood, damim, is the same as the Hebrew word for money, damim. Jewish damim has been spilled. Jewish blood will be spilled, and our community is uniquely positioned to help dam the river of blood by way of our damim, our much-needed funds. Park Avenue Synagogue holds a unique, historic, and trusted relationship with UJA Federation of New York. They are the primary social service agency for for our people here in New York, in Israel, around the globe. One gives to a central agency because of a long-standing relationship, because of our trust in their good work, and because none of us have either the time or the expertise to determine whether the acute need lies in identifying the dead, the life-giving work of hospitals, mobilizing volunteers, trauma counseling, resettling families, rebuilding communities, or any of the other endless list of needs. The professionals of UJA Federation, both here in New York and on the ground in Israel, are positioned to identify those needs, to prioritize those needs, and most of all, to allocate our tzedakah, our charitable giving, to address those needs today and in the future. It's your support, your damim, your money that funds this campaign of chesed, of kindness, in the face of hate. I have two goals for this moment, both audacious, both doable. First, I want 100%. Second, I want $18 million. If last Shabbat was a day that the streets of Israel flowed with damim blood, let this Shabbat be the day that our river of damim, of money, flows freely. We can do this, and I'm not unprepared. It's been a busy week. We're $16 million on the way there. $16 million raised for the UJA Israel Emergency Campaign for the Park Avenue Synagogue community. Commitments beyond people's annual commitments to UJA, beyond their annual commitments to Park Avenue Synagogue. I have been humbled by people's generosity, and we are so close to that goal. Thank God what we need is in the room. Our task is to move what we need from your pocket to the campaign. So here we go. A little bit old school, a little bit new school. Everybody, take out your phones right now. And then take out the Shabbat Shalom pamphlet that is at the side of your seats. And Ross, you can use the QR codes that are here. Let's get another volunteer here. If you're watching from home, there is a QR code on your screen right about here. It will take you to the landing page. If you've already given to another worthwhile organization, thank you, and God bless you. Now take out your phone. If it's just a gift of chai, as Jews we say l'chaim, to life, chai corresponding to the number 18. I want people to remember this hour as a moment that the Jewish people stood together. The clergy have allocated 3 times chai, 54,000, in addition to our annual UJA pledge, as well as, of course, their Passover campaign. Is my wife in the room? The Cosgrove family allocates double chai, 36,000, on top of our annual gift to UJA. The eyes of history are upon us. What you do right now will be remembered by our children and our children's children as a time that you were called on to step up for the Jewish people. Let it be remembered as a time that we responded with a life-giving pledge. This is going to take a moment, and I imagine the UJA website just crashed. So if we also have some cards going around the room. Right here. Thank you, Rachel. So if you cannot get on the website, then grab a card. And we'll have ushers at the door as you are able. And while you are increasing your gift, let's go through every synagogue trip to Israel. Do I have any representatives from the 2010 family trip, young family trip to Israel? The Zabars, the Rothmans, the Barths. I'll repeat, how did you do? How did the trip do? Did we bundle any funds? We get good participation? Full participation from the 2010 family trip. Family trip. Anyone from that trip? Gail Furman and Susan Edelstein. Do we have anyone who was on that trip? How did we do on that trip? Did we get good participation? Gail, I've never had to ask you to be loud in your life. Come on. How did we do?
We raised $31,000 with 61%.
$31,000. The 2012 B'nai Mitzvah trip, Linda Yarden, how did we do? Are you here, Linda? Linda, how did we do?
Great. We had a majority of people have given. I don't have an exact number.
Okay. Numbers still coming in, a majority. Linda, you're already standing up. I think also the women's trip do we have another trip?
No, we have the 2014 family B'nai Mitzvah trip, and I have my co-chair, Lisa, was here. There she is.
Lisa, how did we do okay?
We had 100% participation, and we were really delighted with that.
100% participation. Tamara Stark and Sherry, Malam Zadeh, the 2015 Young Family trip. Anyone there? How did we do, Sherry? All right, good job. Jamie Bahar and Rebecca Feuerstein, 2017 Young Families. Anyone from that trip? How did we do, Jamie? Awesome. We're going to keep going. Who am I up to? Melissa Raskin, Tamara Stark, and Kim Molstra, the 2022 B'nai Mitzvah trip. Anyone there? Melissa, how did we do? We're almost there. We're almost there. And then the 2023, just now, the Young Family trip, Nikki Cole and Deborah Konstadt. How did we do? We did great. Friends, I don't know where we are, but I hope that there have been audacious acts of tzedakah. Why not? I've never done it in my career. Anyone want to make a pledge? Anyone want to inspire? Okay. Yes? Craig and Diane Solomon, yes. $36,000. Is there a hand in the back? I can't. Gail. Women's trip 2014, $61,000. Friends, this community has done remarkable things already. We will, please God, by the end of Shabbat, cross over our goal of 18 million of Chai. I imagine if we are not there, we are very close, and if you have not given, you will assuredly hear from me.